Imagine you're holding a document, right? And it's written by a highly qualified London oral surgeon.
Which naturally sets a certain expectation.
Exactly. Given that background, you naturally expect to read about, bone grafting, tissue regeneration, maybe the clinical realities of implant surgery.
A medical paper, essentially.
Right. Instead, you turn the page and find yourself reading this manifesto, a text where this exact same surgeon claims he personally wrote the United States Constitution, met God to design the dollar bill, and, oh yeah, discovered the literal mathematical source code of the universe.
Yeah, it is the absolute definition of a nonlinear, multidimensional autobiography.
It really is.
We are looking at a narrative landscape today that just shatters any conventional timeline.
Well, welcome to today's deep dive. Our mission for you, the learner, is to provide a clear, structured breakdown of a truly unique document that crossed our desks.
And it is definitely unique.
It's an excerpt from a text titled AmericanFoundingFather.pdf, authored by Dr. Mukesh C. Chauhan. Okay, let's unpack this. We are going to explore a text that seamlessly, or at least attempts to seamlessly merge 18th century American history, cutting-edge quantum physics, ancient Hindu theology, and, like I said, modern clinical dentistry into one unified personal narrative.
Yeah, and to be clear, before we really start unpacking this, our goal today isn't to fact-check his claims.
No, not at all.
We are here to debate the theology of a modern Bhagavad Gita or verify if he invented the American dollar.
Yeah.
We're treating this as an exercise in architectural observation.
Which means we're not taking any sides here.
Exactly. We want to step inside a highly complex, deeply idiosyncratic worldview to see exactly how the author connects these incredibly disparate dots. We are observing how someone constructs an entirely alternative reality.
I love that framing. It is like exploring a newly discovered island, and we are just mapping the flora and fauna of this particular philosophical landscape.
Right, just taking it as it is presented.
So, to understand the author, Dr. Chauhan, we really have to start with his most prominent historical claim. It basically serves as the foundation for everything else.
The big one.
Yeah. He asserts that he is the literal reincarnation of Benjamin Franklin.
And he doesn't just claim to have been a contemporary observer, just hanging out with the founding fathers.
Good eye on the wall.
No, he claims a central architect-level role in the creation of the United States. He states explicitly that he signed all 4 major American legal documents.
Wow. All 4?
All of them. And he mentions that he owned a printing press in Philadelphia, which really serves as his anchor to historical reality in the text.
Because the historical Benjamin Franklin did own a printing press, obviously, but the author takes this so much further.
He really does.
He essentially colonizes history. He takes centuries of well-documented events and makes himself the main character of every single one. Like he Forrest Gumps his way through the founding of America.
It's a very proactive version of history.
Right. And my absolute favorite detail in this entire first section is his supposed involvement with the Constitution.
Oh, the drafting process. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's where his narrative gets incredibly specific.
It's so specific.
Yeah.
So he claims he was asked to write the Constitution in Philadelphia, but he delegated the task to Thomas Jefferson.
But not for some grand, sweeping philosophical reason.
No. The reason he gives in the document is that he simply didn't wish to, quote, go back and forth repeatedly canceling the words and lines.
It is such a strikingly mundane, relatable reason for delegating one of the most important documents in human history.
Right. Like, I don't want to deal with the rough drafts, Tom. You take this one.
He essentially says he couldn't be bothered with the red ink.
Yeah. But then he claims he stepped in at the very end to correct Jefferson's draft by adding that famous line, "We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal."
So he takes credit for the thesis statement.
Exactly. He claims those are his specific words, added after crossing out just a single line of Jefferson's.
What's fascinating here is how he positions himself not just as a political founder, but as the actual architect of American symbolism and spiritual identity.
Yeah, moving beyond just the legal documents.
Right. He claims to have designed the American dollar and the pyramid on the Great Seal.
He anchors these massive cultural touchstones entirely to his own personal trans-historical experience.
Which brings in a deeply personal theological twist to this historical lore.
The God part.
Yes. He reveals that he included the phrase, "In God we trust," on the dollar bill, specifically because he had literally met God.
Just casually dropping that in there.
Yeah. He claims to have documented this meeting with the Creator, along with the details of what he calls a land of eternal light in the first chapter of a Gita that he wrote much later in India.
Okay, so if you are claiming to be Ben Franklin and you are casually mentioning meetings with God to design currency, standard religious reincarnation doesn't really cover the mechanics of how you remember doing all of this, right?
It definitely requires a more robust explanation.
Does he try to explain the actual machinery of how his memories survived across centuries? Like, how does he remember the printing press?
He does, actually, and he bypasses traditional religious frameworks entirely to do it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he pivots straight into quantum mechanics.
Of course he does.
Dr. Chauhan claims to have made immense scientific discoveries that bridge the gap between the material world and the spiritual one.
But we aren't talking about small theoretical physics papers here, are we?
Not at all.
He lists uncovering the fundamental nature of consciousness, 3D vision, and something he calls the quantum code, which he defines as the actual source code of the universe.
Right, the underlying operating system.
Yeah, he introduces this concept called the QUCL code. He doesn't just say we are spiritually connected in some vague way. He argues there is a literal programming language, a strict syntax to human existence.
And he claims this code dictates human DNA and consciousness.
That is a massive claim.
It is, and he incorporates concepts like string theory and the detailed structures of black holes into this whole framework.
How do black holes fit into a universal source code?
Well, in his worldview, black holes aren't just collapsed stars, right? They function almost like processing engines or massive servers for this universal cosmic software.
So they're the hard drives of the universe.
Basically. And he explicitly states that no one else in mainstream science is privy to this knowledge. He even notes that it led to a Nobel Prize nomination in India for physics and medicine.
Wait, I have to pause on the empirical nature of these claims. Here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
He writes about seeing live 3D atom formation, electrons, and quarks. Wait, how does one literally see a subatomic particle forming?
It's a fair question.
Like, is the author speaking metaphorically here? Is this about reaching a state of spiritual enlightenment where the nature of reality is just like felt and understood? Or is he claiming a literal scientific observation with his own human eyes?
Based on the strict context of the document, he positions these as literal empirical discoveries.
Actual observation.
Yes. He groups seeing these quarks with highly tangible claims, like his assertion that his quantum discoveries led to a vaccine-free COVID-19 solution.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So the author uses this quantum framework not as a poetic metaphor, but as the literal mechanism for his reality. He explains that human lives and past births are not just vague spiritual concepts, but that they are mathematically coded.
Coded, like software running on a computer.
Exactly like that. The Creator, he says, revealed this coding to him with, quote, beautiful details.
So he isn't just sitting in meditation recalling past lives.
He claims to be reading the universe's source code, which he says proves his past lives mathematically and physically.
That is wild.
It is a very modern, almost cyberpunk approach to the ancient concept of reincarnation. The spiritual is made entirely scientific.
Which means if there is a code, there has to be a coder, right? Or at least a master user.
The system admin.
Exactly. That naturally brings us to the next major pillar of his identity. We've covered Ben Franklin, but in this cosmic software program, that's just a recent save file, right?
Right, that's just one iteration. Going further back in his coded timeline, the author claims to be the exact same Krishna from 5,000 years ago.
The Hindu deity.
Yes. He states that God explicitly brought him back to India for a specific purpose.
So he is Benjamin Franklin, who is also Lord Krishna.
Correct. And to document this immense dual identity, he mentions writing 2 Gitas in India.
Wait, like the Bhagavad Gita?
Exactly. The original Bhagavad Gita is a foundational text of Hindu philosophy, traditionally a dialogue between Prince Arjuna and Krishna. Dr. Chauhan claims to have written a modern continuation.
2 of them.
Yeah. The first Gita details his meeting with God, and the second, he notes, is comprised entirely of his scientific works.
So he literally merges the sacred text with the scientific journal.
He does. And the foundational theory that glues his identity, his history, and his physics all together is a concept he introduces called triple quantum entanglement.
Okay, break down how that works in his framework. Because entanglement in standard physics usually just refers to particles remaining connected, so that actions performed on one affect the other regardless of distance.
Right, the spooky action at a distance.
Yeah, so how does he make it triple?
According to the text, the Creator uses this triple quantum entanglement as a three-way network.
Okay.
Think of it like a closed-loop system connecting the creator, the universal code, and the individual soul, or Atma.
So 3 points of contact.
Right. He uses this mechanism to explain that God controls everything specifically, what happens inside human consciousness. The soul is the node, the universe is the server, and the creator is the system administrator.
I mean, it's his version of a theory of everything. Physicists have spent decades trying to unify general relativity and quantum mechanics.
And he's trying to unify, well, everything else.
Yeah. This text is attempting to forcefully stitch together Eastern spirituality, Western historical lore, and theoretical physics into a single, cohesive tapestry.
It's an ambitious synthesis, for sure.
But there's a serious tension here. We talked earlier about him writing, "All men are created equal" into the U.S. Constitution.
The Jefferson edits, yeah.
Right. How does a phrase so deeply rooted in universal equality mesh with a worldview built on cosmic hierarchies, system administrators, and coded past lives? Because those seem directly opposed.
That paradox is actually a critical point of analysis in this document, and it reveals exactly how he uses his quantum theories to shape his political philosophy.
Does he address the contradiction?
He addresses it directly. The author states that while, quote, all men are created equal in the source code, they are fundamentally different at the quantum levels.
Wait, what does that mean in practical terms? Different at the quantum levels?
According to his theory, these differences arise because people have different grades of arrangement of subatomic particles in their consciousness.
Different grades of subatomic particles.
Right. So equality exists at the very base level, the blank slate of the code. But once that code manifests into physical reality, the subatomic arrangements vary in quality.
Wow.
And he takes this a step further, explicitly tying these subatomic differences to what he calls important qualitative differences in different races of human beings.
Oh, I see. So by framing human differences as quote-unquote subatomic, he is attempting to move his philosophy out of the realm of subjective debate and into the realm of hard mathematical law.
He's making it sound like physics.
He's using a self-authored framework of subatomic physics to give empirical weight to a system of racial hierarchy.
Exactly. Within the internal logic of his worldview, he claims these different subatomic groups take births at different times in a grand worldly cycle.
Like a repeating timeline.
Yes. And he believes this cycle is currently coming to an end. A cosmic conclusion, which he says is depicted by the swastika in India, referencing its ancient use as a symbol of auspiciousness and the cyclical nature of time in Hinduism, long before its modern appropriations.
Right. Okay, so what does this all mean? It is easy to picture someone with these sweeping cosmic theories living isolated on a mountaintop somewhere, completely detached from society.
A literal hermit.
Yeah. But the most jarring part of this text is the geographical and professional footprint of the author. This isn't a hermit. This is a guy navigating the modern world. How did he arrive at this massive realization?
The text gives us some very grounded biographical details about his recent past.
What does he say?
He describes an epic journey that started in London and ended in India. And it wasn't a seamless transition at all. He calls it a 14-year painful search, fraught with mountainous problems and fierce opposition.
He paints a picture of a prophet facing resistance from the world.
He really does. And there is a highly specific climatic moment he describes taking place in New Delhi.
What happened in New Delhi?
He states that he traveled there to, quote, take over control of India.
Wait, literally take over the country?
Yes. However, he says the creator intervened directly and stopped him.
Okay, why?
God told him he wasn't ready yet because he still needed to learn more about his past lives in America, the UK, and Germany.
Okay, this brings us to the profound contrast we mentioned at the very beginning of the deep dive.
The professional background.
Exactly. Before this London to India spiritual quest, before the intervention by the creator in New Delhi, what was he doing with his life? The document tells us.
It's all in there.
He was traveling to the USA regularly to do postgraduate work in implant surgery and bone grafting. He is a qualified oral surgeon from London, boasting multiple degrees and international certifications.
It is an incredibly striking juxtaposition.
I mean, think about the day-to-day reality of oral surgery. It is exacting. It is highly grounded in physical, clinical reality.
Very precise work.
You are dealing with micrometers of tissue, bone density, sterilization protocols, and localized pain management. It is as tangible and strictly rule-bound as a profession gets.
Absolute.
And you have to reconcile that clinical medical reality alongside claims of intending to take over the government of India and discovering the source code of the universe.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the text reveals a fascinating symptom of the modern mind.
How so?
We have individuals capable of intense, microscopic scientific rigor, like bone grafting, who use that exact same structural logic to build massive, unscientific mythologies about themselves.
Yes. It's the clinical mind misapplied to the spiritual ego. He is taking the vocabulary of science codes, entanglement, atoms, and using it to build a religion of one.
And it goes further than just building it in private. In the past, someone with a deeply complex, highly unorthodox internal worldview might have just written a physical manuscript and kept it in a desk drawer.
Or maybe self-published a few copies for friends.
Exactly.
Hmm.
But Dr. Chauhan has an extensive digital footprint.
He really does. The document ends with a veritable directory of contact info.
He lists both UK and India mobile numbers, suggesting a transnational modern existence. But more importantly, he lists a massive array of social media links.
He's everywhere.
He has YouTube channels. He is on X, formerly Twitter, with the handle @OneOriginalGod.
#1 original god.
Yep. He's on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram as @QuantumMukesh.
Quantum machine.
He even has a Pinterest account and a dedicated website, originalgodconsciousness.com.
A Pinterest account. I mean, you usually go there for recipe ideas or home decor, not the source code of the universe.
It's definitely a unique use of the platform.
Which means he is actively treating this not just as a private belief, but as a public campaign.
Modern platforms allow individuals to broadcast these incredibly elaborate, self-contained universes to the entire globe. He uses the tools of modern networking, the very same tools a dentist might use to promote a new clinic, to promote his identity as the reincarnated architect of the American Republic and a divine cosmic entity.
It's wild.
It demonstrates how the democratization of publishing has allowed every conceivable variation of human thought to find a platform and build an ecosystem.
It's an ecosystem where a resume detailing bone grafting certifications sits right next to a claim of writing the Bhagavad Gita.
Side by side.
It really is a fascinating case study in synthesis. So to summarize our journey today for you listening, we started with the printing presses of Benjamin Franklin. We ventured into the invisible realms of quantum entanglement, where black holes process the software of human souls. We touched upon the ancient theology of Lord Krishna, and we ended up looking at the LinkedIn profile of a London oral surgeon.
It's a lot of ground to cover. But regardless of how one views the factual nature of these claims, the document is a testament to the human mind's relentless drive to create meaning out of chaos.
Absolutely.
The author has taken the disparate fragments of his life, his clinical medical training, his deep interest in physics, his geographical movements between the US, UK, and India, and his cultural heritage. And he hasn't just loosely connected them.
No, he wove them together.
He has forged them into a singular, epic narrative where he is the central protagonist of the universe.
He looked at the standard chronological map of a human life and just refused it. He decided to draw an entirely different map, and he made sure all the roads led directly back to himself.
It makes you wonder how many other people you pass on the street who are walking around with entirely different, equally expansive universes running inside their heads while they're just, buying groceries.
Or, in this case, performing dental surgery.
Right. And it leaves us with an interesting philosophical puzzle to consider.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the author relies heavily on this idea of a quantum code, that our lives, our past births, and our present realities are all meticulously coded into the universe by a creator.
The cosmic software.
Exactly. But if our lives are indeed as strictly coded at the quantum level as Dr. Chauhan suggests, consider how that reframes our everyday concept of free will.
Oh, that's a good point.
If the universe is operating on a source code that dictates everything from the arrangement of our subatomic particles to the historical events we participate in to our next reincarnation, are we truly the authors of our own choices?
Or are we just playing out the code?
Right. Are we, much like the author's version of Benjamin Franklin acting out his predetermined role, simply actors reading lines on a pre-written cosmic stage?
If the script is already written into the fabric of the universe, who is really holding the pen? That is a wild thought to leave on. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive today. We love unpacking these incredibly unique sources with you. Keep questioning the architectures of the world around you. Keep exploring those different perspectives. And we will catch you next time as we jump down another rabbit hole. Keep learning.